So it's a crummy, wet, rainy day in Tokyo. The kind of day that just makes you want to find a nice warm place, curl up, and drink some great craft beer. This is Craft Beer Adventure 2 in Tokyo. If you haven't seen my first one, I'll put a link to it down below. Definitely check that out. But we're exploring a different side of the craft beer scene. This is more in the Shibuya-esque area of Tokyo. And we're gonna check out some places. Well, let's see what they got. First stop is Spring Valley Brewery, which is just a short 3-minute walk from Daikanyama Station. Spring Valley Brewery is actually very unique in the craft beer scene, in that it is owned by Kirin Brewing, which is a large macro brewer in Japan, mostly known for its lager. While I do know some people will look at a macro brewer trying to break in the craft beer scene with skeptical eyes, Spring Valley Brewery actually does a great job of coming up with a nice, diverse set of beers to try. Because of that, I chose their beer and food sampler, which featured small tastings of all 6 of their beers with a particular food which was supposed to complement the beer. The beers were 496, a pale ale, Copeland, which was a pilsner, After Dark, a dark lager, On the Cloud, a wheat beer, Daydream, which was a Belgian wit, and Jazzberry, which was described as a fruit beer. 496 has also been described as a not quite IPA, which definitely comes across with the flavor with a little bit of a hoppy kick, but not as much as your usual IPA. As far as the food that was paired with 496, it was a sweet pastry with whipped cream. Copeland was a very pale pilsner, and actually was a little bit more closer to a lager, but it did pair very well with the cucumbers that came with it. After Dark was of course right up my alley. Nice chocolate malt and a great big coffee bomb at the end, which made it a real robust flavor. This of course all went along with a nice chocolate cookie. On the Cloud is actually a little bit lighter than most wheat beers I've had. Just a little bit of yeast and a little bit of wheat, and even a tiny bit of a hoppy kick to it. On the Cloud did come with olives, which I think brought out some of the more bitter notes in the beer. Daydream is a beer that has been spiced with yuzu and sansho. Because of this, it has a very pronounced citrus flavor, but is also super dry and is complemented pretty well actually by the very simple potato chips it comes with. Then there was Jazzberry, which was a mistake in every sense of the word. Bubbly, sour, sickly sweet, it just didn't work in any sense. Even the food that went with it was this weird sour plum. I just spent so much time regretting every taste. With the exception of Jazzberry, I would say this was a pretty decent sampling of beer. Nothing too fantastic, but solid all around. Of the 6 beers, I would say After Dark and 496 were certainly my favorite. For our next stop, we gotta go back on the subway system and go to Shimokizawa Station. For stop number 2, we're going a little bit more off the beaten path to a craft beer place called Douchey Torah, a more residential area. Certainly a whole bunch of small stores and small setups. It's really vastly different from the rest of the hustle and bustle of the bigger, busier sections of Tokyo. Douchey Torah is definitely a hidden gem on the back streets of Shimokizawa. It's a place that you could very easily miss if you don't know what you're looking for.
Douchey Torah, of course, brews their own beers and has 7 on tap. But with 35 taps in total, they have beers from all across Japan, as well as a few imported. The first thing I noticed is they had some real ale on tap, which is of course cask beer that needs to be hand pumped. Naturally, I chose the dark beer one, which was a porter from Yoho Brewing. Being a hand-pumped beer, this has a nice, dry, smooth finish, heavy coffee, some chocolate, and even a slight bit of hop spice. It's a fantastic beer for a cold, rainy day. Next, I decided to go off of Douchey Torah's own taps, get a nice IPA. Now this is the kind of IPA that I really enjoy. Nice hop taste, but not too strong, citrus notes, and a nice bitter finish, but not so bitter that it's overwhelming. If you do come to Douchey Torah and find yourself getting hungry, I do suggest the steamed gyoza. These little pork dumplings are packed full of flavor and come with a nice citrusy dipping sauce. My next beer was another Douchey Torah beer, this time a double IPA. If you're a fan of nice strong hops, this is definitely the beer for you. It actually caught me off guard. It was a real punch of hops. I'm not sure if there's much else to say about this beer. It's hoppy, powerful, and definitely designed for IPA lovers. Very different and powerful beer compared to everything else I had had on my trip. It was at this point that I realized how early it still was in the day, so I decided to take the advice of the Three Stooges on my shirt, drink responsibly, and slow down a bit. I ended up really falling in love with Shimo Kitazawa. Seriously, if you're in Tokyo, take a trip out on the back streets and just walk around, check out some stores. It's a fantastic area. Our final stop in this video is about a 9 to 10 minute walk from the ever-busy Shibuya station. The crowds may seem overwhelming, but if you can force your way through it, you can find the opportunity to go and say hello to Hachiko. Maybe even fight through the crowd of people to let him know what a good boy he is. Good Beer Faucet is a bar and restaurant in the Shibuya area which has 40 beers on tap. Both beer from Japan and internationally is featured. It's a place that you can apparently have a beer that'll high-five your mouth. Now this was labeled as a Bock on the menu, which is a German-style dark lager. But this actually had a very, very strong coffee flavor to it, and even a smokiness at the end, which I would compare more to a porter. Even so, it was still good, but it is definitely a sipping beer. And to close out the day, I went with the Zeus Bitter. This had some good herbal, floral, and citrus notes, but also had a pronounced hoppy bitterness to it. Not my favorite beer on the day, but still solid, and it was nice just to change things up.
So I'm back at my hostel, and that's it for this video, guys. If I had to pick my favorite, it would probably be the second place, which would be Douchey Torah. Great craft beer selection. Food was pretty good as well, and it also was just great ambiance. And of course, you're in the location. Good Beer Faucets had pretty good beer. It's a little bit more pricey, which I think has more to do with where it's located. Being right in kind of the heart of Shibuya. or excuse me, Shibuya, where it's super crazy and everything like that. So obviously I think the prices reflect that. Kieran's, foray into the craft beer market is pretty solid. I mean, I guess if I had to say, it's a little bit run-of-the-mill, but still good beer. But by far the star of, at the very least, this video is Douchey Torah, and I can't recommend them enough. Get out of the major part of the city, go to the more residential area, and find it. So in these two videos, we've checked out a lot of craft beer places, but there's even more in Tokyo. So hey, if you love craft beer, take a look around, see if you can find yourself something you might like. And that's it for this video. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.